Welcome to Bleachers and Speakers. I'm your host, June, and welcome to our show. This is the time of the week where I am with my comrades from the NFC North Division. We have my boy Foster, who's my co-host for Bleachers and Speakers. We have my boy Pay from the Chicago Bears, the Bear Claw. And we have Dave, the Minnesota Vikings affiliate, First and Skull. I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves as well, in case you want to say more than what I've said. Foster, you can go last because you really don't mean much to the channel. And Dave, you can tell the people what's up with you and what's going on.
Hey, I'm Dave from Vikings First and Skull. We are the Fans First Sports Network's Vikings arm. We have content over on YouTube. We have content in your podcast feeds, and we have content over on the written side of Fans First Sports Network.com. All you got to do is come over and find, and we can scold to our heart's content, especially as we get pumped up with the new season coming upon us, and we're heading into free agency and draft time. But first, we have a Super Bowl to talk about.
Sure. Pay.
What's up, gentlemen? Everybody out there watching the Bleachers and Speakers feed. Hey, I host the Bear Claw pod, also with the Fans First Sports Network. We've got a lot of great things going on. Hopefully the Bears can also have some great things going on this offseason. So all my content is not just ripping their piss poor decisions. So check us out.
And last and probably least, Foster. Talk to the people.
Yeah, I'm the second half of Bleachers and Speakers. I'm just here. I'm just here so I don't get fired.
It's Super Bowl week, man, and unfortunately none of our teams are there. But we're still excited. We have a full off season ahead of us, and we are football lovers. We're going to. I'm sure all of us here are going to watch the Super Bowl. Do you guys have a preference on who's win? Are you NFC, AFC biased, Dave?
Nah, it doesn't bother me either way. I have no favorite per se in this game. I think I know who's going to win, but nah.
We'll get into that.
I just want a good game as normal. Let it be close. Let it be competitive. Let the refs not get involved, and make stupid calls. Have it be a good game. And don't cut to the VIP booth every 5 seconds.
Yeah. Pay, do you have a preference?
I do have a preference.
Uh-oh.
I have a massive preference.
Let's go.
I don't know. Should I hold off until we talk about who we want to win, or do we not, or should I just rip the Band-Aid off?
I mean, if you want to chime in on it later, but you answered the question. Do you have a preference? And you elaborated on it later. We'll talk about it later. Foster, I got a question for you. Do you feel that? Do you cheer for the team that eliminated your team, or do you cheer against them because they eliminated your team? Do you do either?
I mean, I'm torn, of course, between this because it's like, as much as I want to be like, F the 49ers, they beat us, I shouldn't be mad at them because they played 4 quarters of football and we could, and the
Right.
49ers fans haven't really, pissed me off too bad. So I don't have so much I don't know if the word is vindication towards them. That may not fit, but so yeah, but as far as the Chiefs, they always win. We got to deal with the Kelsey and Swift BS and who likes Patrick Mahomes. I mean, there's a lot of reasons to root against them. So I'm not so against the 49ers. Even when they had like Kaepernick, I was like, okay, cool. Like, and Frank Gore and all those guys. So I'm not opposed to them getting over the hump and winning a Super Bowl. So
Well,
I guess I do have a preference.
I think it's a shame when you think of a team and have to think of Taylor Swift to go with it. I mean,
Yeah,
there's
like
so many other players.
what does she have to do with football? Like,
Yeah, I mean,
she
and
just
it
turned into
happens all the time with her being associated with that team this year. Like, she's getting more recognition than the players. So, than most of the players. You're gonna get
I was
Mahomes.
about to say, not
Mahomes
Kelsey.
well, Mahomes and Kelsey are gonna get
Yeah.
their shine, but they don't talk about Pacheco as much as they talk about Taylor Swift.
Well,
So-
but she did bring, I know it's irritating to us, but she has brought in a whole different segment of the population,
Oh,
a
yeah.
whole new generation into loving football that, like we know, once they're hooked, and they'll be talking about it 20 years from now when, hey, how'd you get in? What was the key moment? And like a lot of fans in Vikings land, they could pick, it was Randy Moss, it was this,
Right.
it was that.
For sure.
For Chiefs fans, some of them are going to say it was Taylor Swift,
in that voice.
Yeah.
and it's a good
I
thing
think
overall for football.
I think there's a. Go ahead, Joe.
Well, I was going to say Foster would probably be upset with me, but no, it's not my fault though, Foster. So I have a family member that is a diehard 49ers fan. I won't say his name on the air because he doesn't watch my show. I'm not going to give him no shine. I didn't hear from him in the first half of the game. I didn't hear from him all before the game. Only after the game did I hear from this man. And he mailed me a 49ers baseball cap. I do not wear the only NFL cap, and I got a bunch of baseball caps. The only NFL cap I have is a Lions cap that I just bought this year. I mean, earlier last year, right before the season. And he sent me a 49ers cap trying to be funny. I'm sorry, but I'm going to wear that cap. I'm sorry. I mean, I'm not mad at the 49ers. I'm mad at Josh Reynolds. I'm not mad at the 49ers.
Josh Reynolds. Oh, damn.
What about Gibbs? You mad at him?
No, I'm not.
No.
Okay.
Have you looked at it that if the 49ers win, both you and the 49ers have beaten the Kansas City Chiefs this last season?
Yeah.
That's cool, I guess.
And the only one you lost to was the Niners, and they won the Super Bowl. So
you could look at it that way as a Lions fan, like we lost to the team that was the best team in the NFL. Yeah. So, but at the same time, I myself, I don't have a dog in the race. I'm like Dave. I'm hoping for a great game that the refs don't affect, that they just and I don't want to see a mistake play game. I want to see just a good game. So that's just me. I'm not cheering for you. I'm just going to enjoy the festivities and wonder what if, so to speak. But outside of that, can we go with some predictions now? Pay, you can go ahead and talk about it. I want to hear your predictions, and I want to know why you're rooting for who you're rooting for.
All right, so I'll give you my rooting interest first.
Okay.
I don't think I'm breaking any news here when I say the world hasn't been the same since the last time the Kansas City Chiefs and the 49ers played in February, right? I don't think I'm breaking any news. I think we're all cursed. I think, and I want to call the curse of Jimmy Garoppolo. They got Garoppolo out of the Bay Area.
Mm-hmm.
So it's time to exercise some demons. San Francisco got to do it this time. Shanahan, he didn't blew it twice. Third time's a charm. He's got to win this game. Maybe if he wins this game, the world can get back on the correct axis, get back to spinning it correctly, and we can, figure some things out. I'm
It's a lot.
hoping.
It seems to be a lot deeper with you than.
It's something. It's something's got to give. Something's got to give. If you're going to beat the Kansas City Chiefs in the postseason, it will have to be this team. You're never going to catch them this week again. And I say it's funny to say that for a team that's representing a whole conference.
Pat,
this week.
I said Kansas City was like the weaker version of themselves than the past, and that's what went into my pick versus Baltimore. And they didn't look like that team all season. They looked very good versus Baltimore.
Yeah. For a quarter and a half, they did. The defense, Baltimore shot themselves in the foot multiple times, but it is what it is. That's
I'm saying that
off season 2.
They took the ball right off the rip and scored, set the tone, and their defense played. That's a good football team over there.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they are. But and here's my prediction. I expect the better football team to show up. They've got the experience. They've been how's the phrase going? Twice bitten, once shy. It's their time.
They have all the playmakers.
They have all the playmakers. Their quarterback, who is a good quarterback, mind you, is the 10th or 12th best player on the team. Yeah. They've got playmakers on every level on both sides of the ball. It's their time. The coaches got all the Super Bowl experience you can have. He's blown large leads, and 2 of them. So I think he's going to be extremely prepared, extremely focused, and ready to go out there and exercise some demons. I got San Francisco handling some business, finally coming through. Shanahan gets one for the family, gets one for himself. Andy Reid and them can run out right off to the sunset. The Kelce's, the Kelce, Mahomes, they catch another Super Bowl L. So far, they've got 2 wins. No big deal for them. It's the Swifties. The Swifties have had it good. They jumped at the football and ended up in the Super Bowl all in the same year. That doesn't happen like that. It doesn't happen like that. The bandwagon has to stop at some point, and it's time. It's time. You're going to have to face a real team, and I'm ready for it to happen.
Okay.
Bang, bang, Niner gang.
Oh, I didn't like that. Oh, you can't do that. You can't. Oh, Dave, what's your prediction there, sir?
I think what you talked about, June, this team who started out with nobody being able to catch footballs has turned itself around over the season. Good coaching, and the play got better. And once it came to the playoffs, they seemed to turn on a switch. Mm-hmm. And that may be Andy Reid, that may be Patrick Mahomes, Kelce, right? Kelce's looked better in the playoffs than he did most of the season. All that could play into the Chiefs winning, by 3 or 4 points in the end. And I could see that. I can see San Francisco stumbling once again in the Super Bowl. I don't know who's going to win. I don't really care. But if I had to choose, and I think San Francisco is favored by just a little bit, I would go with the Chiefs. That's just my personal choice. There's no real reason other than I think they're playing at their best football right now when it counts. And I think that's going to be what puts them over the top. And I think Kelce's going to play his best game of the season. When your football is done, right? And he's talking about he's going to retire like his brother. You tend to go out there and leave everything on the field. Mm-hmm. There's no holding back anything. You just go wild and you go all out. And a lot of times that leads to good things. And so I think the Chiefs are going to pull this one out. Now, my question is, what's the over and under on whether Kelce proposes to Taylor Swift in the post game on the field?
Give me a break.
Oh my God.
Vegas probably has it.
Yeah,
I haven't
think
looked.
They do.
That'd be disgusting. That would be disgusting.
I mean, I love for the young people. In fact, well, I don't think Kelsey's pretty young, but I love for him. But oh my,
Publicity stunt.
I don't want.
That would be the craziest publicity
I
stunt.
do not want to hear the conversation that comes behind that. I just want a clean Super Bowl. I want to eat food that I ain't got no business eating. I want to watch some commercials, laugh. I want to call off work the next day. I don't want to hear the conversation that's going to happen afterwards. If there's a Kelsey Swift thingamajig on the field after the game, please save me from it. Please, come on, Niners, please.
Foster, your prediction.
I'm right there with Dave as far as just the way San Francisco has played since the playoffs have started. It's been very just. I mean, I think there's an outside chance that they put it all together and they play the best they've played. I mean, they should play the best they've played thus far, but in both games they look very vulnerable. I think they ultimately they were able to outcoach and obviously persevere to get to that point. But I think when you break it down to who's the better quarterback, obviously Mahomes is the better quarterback, and the Chiefs have kind of been grooving. Like they had their way with the Dolphins. They had their way with the Baltimore for the most part. And I think that the storyline is kind of set up for them. Um, like you said with Kelsey, possibly. When I saw before the playoffs even started, I'm thinking to myself like, this might be it for Kelsey. He may be kind of peaking out with all the exposure and his podcasts and this being his and him getting all the way to the Super Bowl. This would be the way for him to go out on top is to just to win one right here. So I feel like the writing is kind of on the wall for that. And I don't know and I'm obviously biased to the fact that I wasn't terribly impressed with how they played against Detroit. I think they had some very favorable things happen in that game with the ball going off of Vildor's helmet right into Ayuk's hand and the fumble from Gibbs. I feel like they are very they had some things go their way, and yeah, I could see them falling short again. But obviously they're a very good team, and they'll continue to be they'll continue to have opportunities to get back here. But if I had to put money on it, I would definitely put my money on the Chiefs just off of experience and what they've done thus far.
Yeah, I'm going myself with the Chiefs. I think they're playing good ball at the right time. Even though I think the 49ers are a better football team with more weapons. Um, I just thought that Baltimore was the best team in the league, and they certainly did a number with those guys. We're going to take a quick break for our ads. Our listeners will listen to about 4 ads, but we'll be back in like 15 seconds. I'm tired of talking about other teams, man. I know we're not in the Super Bowl. We got an off season though. And I was talking to Dave the other day, and I was talking to him about some eCam stuff, and I wanted to get with Foster about a draft show. And one of the things he pointed out to me, which is pretty obvious, is free agency, right? So it's kind of hard to have a wish list with the draft if you don't address your wishes or things you like to see in free agency first, because that'll kind of dictate what you do later. And so um, I'm gonna ask you guys, and we can start with Pay. And what do you see out there in free agency for your respective team, the Bears, that you like to see addressed as far as position wise?
Well, the positions of need for the Bears are multiple. We need to replace at least 3/5 of the offensive line. We do need another pass rusher opposite of Montez Sweat. We probably need to upgrade at safety. In fact, if you ask me, it's not a probably. It is a definite. We've needed that for some years now. I don't need to say his name. If you listen to the show, you know. And I think we're cleaning house of our receiver room. So that's one of our obvious weak points. I mean, for anybody, for a novice football observer, we don't have a very good wide receiver room. Outside of DJ Moore, everybody is pretty transient. So from that perspective, is a lot of work. Ryan Poles, the GM of the Chicago Bears, he has a lot of stuff to get done. In the free agent portion of the offseason, I think the best first thing you need to target would be a pass rush. I don't think this is a strong draft for pass rush. It's a strong draft for wide receivers. I have my opinions about drafting wide receivers early, but those are just mine. I think you should go ahead and get that pass rush taken care of in the free agent pool. Ryan Poles ignored it all of last season up until he signed Ngakwe towards the end of training camp and then traded for Sweat during the middle of the season. He should not make that mistake again this year. Go ahead and handle business. I think Brian Burns from Carolina might be available. That'll be a great addition for the Bears. Shouldn't cost too much. So go ahead and do that. Coming up for those other positions, I think guard, center, those shouldn't be hard to find. You just want an upgrade at those positions. You don't have to look for any swing for the fences or get any all pros. They're not even available. So just go ahead and plug those holes, and then whatever you got left to do, come to the draft with it.
Dave, same question for you.
Well, normally we approach it as free agency is used to fill holes and draft is used to gather talent. And hopefully you can get good free agents in the process. Tonight on Vikings First and Skull on the Real Forno Show, we're having our first mock draft, but we're discussing how mock drafts can influence free agent strategy. Because we learn in the draft who falls to what segments, right? We take the quarterbacks for an example right now. You have your top 6 quarterbacks, and they're generally top 3 with Caleb Williams, Drake May, and Jaden Daniels. And then you have your bottom 3 of the top 6, which are J.J. McCarthy, Bo Nix, and the other one from Washington. And Penix, yes, thank you, Michael Penix. And you could see how through multiple drafts, how these players fall and where they slot. And with that, you can figure out, well, if I'm going to have to go up and move up, right? Say the Vikings want to move up to the 5th position, say if Jaden Daniels falls. To trade up, what's it going to cost them? Well, if it costs them this, how am I going to make up for that on the other end? What free agents do I need to bring in? If I can get none of those of that top 6 are the quarterbacks we want, and we want to bring back Kirk Cousins, all right, then I have to address Kirk Cousins coming back and what it would cost to pay him. and we're working on both for free agency. We have 28 players that are going into free agency. The big names for us is Kirk Cousins and Danielle Hunter are the two biggest names. Who we might want to bring back. Danielle Hunter's high on that list, and the fan base is sort of split on the Kirk Cousins question. There's I don't see how we can bring back Kirk Cousins from the rumors that are coming out, what sort of money he's asking for. He can walk. He's going to be 36 years old, coming off a blown Achilles. And that's the magic number that quarterbacks, for the most part, minus a couple of anomalies, fall off the cliff. So we're going to take it. We're going to look at how those mocks work out so we learn what draft players are available when, right? If we wanted a guard, right? One of our guards, left guard, is a free agent. Say I want a guard. If I let that free agent walk, can I find as good, if not better, in free agency? Or am I primed and optimum to find one in the draft by balancing our needs and wants and where the boards fall? And so with that, we make the decision. Do we push for Dalton Risner, in this case, our left guard, to re-sign him? Or do we go out and we look who's available? What do they cost? Hey, this guy over here is available. He only costs a couple more million. There happens to be one on the Detroit Lions, to be exact. Do we go for him or not? So once we get closer to the draft, once we get past free agency, we'll know how the draft will work out. But right now we're using the mock drafts to figure out how can that help with free agency. But both have to be addressed. You've got to fill those major holes immediately, and that comes through free agency. Who knows? We may even trade with Chicago to get Justin Fields. I'm kidding, Pay. I'm kidding. That won't happen. I just wanted a reaction there.
Foster, same question.
So yeah, I ironically enough, as far as the holes that we have, I would love to have a Danielle Hunter or Jalen Johnson. What's his name? Jalen Johnson, the cornerback.
Yeah.
Those are guys that I would love to, fill in some of the holes that we have free agent wise. But outside of that, I guess my worry, my issue with what we need a cornerback is if we don't get a top-notch guy at the if we don't get a top-notch guy that can play the CB1 position, I don't know how we deal with the major hole we have there, because as we all know, Cam Sutton has not worked out in the way that we want him to. So with us drafting so late, I certainly wouldn't have the confidence that we could fill that hole in the draft, because I feel like the guy that is the most ideal for that position will be gone. The guy from Alabama, Kool-Aid McKinstry. I think that the class of corners is somewhat rich, but as far as a guy that we can plug in as the number one guy, I don't think that we will be able to get, unless we get a Jalen Johnson or a L'Jarius Sneed, or maybe a Steph Gilmore, although he's a little bit older. He's like 31, so he's kind of later in his career. So that's the tricky part for us is finding something that makes sense for us. But beyond Danielle Hunter, who I'm certainly not holding my breath that we'll get him. There are a couple other guys at the edge that we could possibly fill in, like a Brian Burns, or maybe one other guy that I can think of. So, but definitely those two are the major concerns. We have some depth, maybe a few depth issues on the offensive line as well. But those are the major ones for sure.
Yeah, I tend to agree with Dave and have the same philosophy as far as filling needs with free agency as opposed to the draft. Um, Me and a buddy of mine were talking about uh, the needs for the Lions, and the most glaring need for me is corner. Um, if you want to say defensive end, I'm not going to debate with you. Need that too, but my thing is I don't want to depend on a shutdown. He has to be the one to be depend on a corner to be your shutdown corner, and I don't think he's going to be there at 29. I just don't. And if you can
And
address the need in free agency, you do so. You don't hope to address it in the draft because you don't know what you're going to get. You could you ignore free agency and say, hey, I'm going to get what I need in the draft. You might not get the person that you planned on, and you might not even address the need like it needs to be addressed. You go after it in free agency. What was you about to say, Foster? I'm sorry.
I was gonna say is that, and with I think it'll be easier to fill the edge rusher role, just because we do have some depth. I think we have some depth on the edge. We got like a Josh Pascal. We got a James Houston who missed the majority of this year, but in a small sample size last year was able to get the job done. So I think that we have the ability to go out and get maybe just a guy that's more that Chop Robinson guy. I don't think that he's great against the run, but I think he is a guy that can even if he's just standing up and rushing as an outside linebacker, I think he's a guy that can get after the quarterback if that's just his role for right now. And we can get him, he's not going to go as soon as a Jared Verse, who's more complete. We can go get a guy that's just raw and just, hey, we just want you to go get the quarterback. We'll worry about you getting some of that technique and some of those other things down the line, because we do have a Josh Pascal that's going into his third year, a James Houston who's already proven that he can get sacks at the NFL level. So I think those raw pass rushers will be easier to fill than that outside corner. The outside corner, and
Yeah.
we haven't had since what Darius Slay was
Yeah.
a solid corner, but I feel like we've always had issues at corner.
Look, we
Always.
drafted Jeff Okuda at number
Hey,
5.
man.
So and I agree, like with the person that I had in mind at a rush in, is like somebody like Chop. I won't give him too much props because he played for Penn State, and I just don't do things like that. We're not, but he would be a very good pickup at 29 to rush the passer. I definitely could see that. Plus, when you're talking about defensive ends as opposed to a corner in the draft, defensive ends, I don't want to downplay the position, but kind of basics
Just
in
go get him, man.
comparison. Go get the quarterback, set the edge, don't let nobody get around you, turn the play inside. Those are things on pass downs where you need this rush in for this Detroit Lions defense. That's what you need to get to the passer and don't let anyone get outside of you. That's it. So it's a different world when you're than a corner, when you're leaving them out on the island and they have to communicate and they have to know formations, they have to know tendencies, they have to where the defensive end just go after and get it. So in that respect, yeah. Go
It's
get
a
that
little
corner.
bit different than that, but
I mean, in a
boiled
nutshell,
I knew Dave was gonna be like, don't
It's
play
in
my
a
don't play my
nutshell.
guys
boiled
like that.
down, that's
there's a
what it
lot
is.
more
Yes,
to
I
it, but
agree.
if you're going to put somebody in that position, just like let's say, for instance, let's say you have a pickup in the middle of the season where you have injured players and you have to put this defensive end. That's what you're going to tell them. You know what I'm saying? On these passing downs, get after the quarterback. Make sure nobody gets outside of you, as opposed to you put a corner in there and you're like, okay, you have to know this coverage. You have to know you have to watch this tendency.
Know how to play zone. You have to look. Yes, I agree.
So
corner is
it's a
you've got
different
to be
animal.
a little bit more cerebral
Yeah,
on playing that spot, and it's hard to find good corners.
Yeah.
We all know that. We wish they grew on trees, and they don't. It's one of the positions I need over on the Viking side as a corner, but it's hard to find. Now, did I hear you guys say Chop Robinson?
Yeah.
Chop Robinson is Tyler Fornes's favorite edge in the whole draft.
Wow.
He absolutely loves the kid.
Yeah.
He's not going to go until about the bottom of the first round.
Yeah.
But he absolutely loves the kid. He thinks he's going to be a stud.
Yeah, I would definitely pick him over a corner because, like I said, we drafted Jeff Okudah before at 5. It just no.
Yeah, even Oworie, he went to Penn State too.
Oh gosh, did you have to?
The Penn State correlation, I can't look past it.
Oh man, you just gave me a headache.
But speaking of drafting, your GM came out this week.
I was going to bring that up, Dave.
And he
I
was
was gonna
talking
bring
about
that up.
being intentional. And I loved how he talked to his local beat press.
That was
Now,
my
what
next.
was it?
That was
Yeah,
my
go
next segment, Dave. You beat me to it because I was going to pose the question: have you heard any news from your respective GMs or camps as far as direction? And I was going to bring up when Brad Holmes had his press conference when he was calling out the media saying, "Hey, you didn't like this pick that I had. I picked this guy and it worked out. You said not to pick me." He was pointing the reporters out. He was calling by name.
I did hear that he had a fiery, but
Yes. He also mentioned in that press conference that although there's money to be spent in free agency, he was focusing on internal spending as opposed to external spending, meaning he had people in that locker room that he'd like to get signed and take care of first and making sure that they stand pat instead of going out and spending a bunch of money in free agency. So with that being said, Dave, what's the latest news coming out of your camp as far as direction or off season or anything? Have you heard anything?
There's nothing that's been said publicly on direction per se, but there was a story published this week, just a couple of days ago, that said Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, our GM, uses PFF to learn about draft picks. And there's a segment of the Vikings fan base, and especially on Twitter, that thinks that's absolutely absurd. How can we have a GM that uses PFF to learn? Because Kwesi is the first, quote, analytic GM, comes from that background versus from the football scout background. And most of us that are knowledgeable in the space are like, come on, guys. Every team uses PFF.
Yeah.
Every last one of them.
Yes, they do.
Has a contract with them. They look at those grades. They look at how they've given PFF feedback over the years on how this is what we're looking for. This is how we want to do it. Evolve your grades so that we can see certain things. And they did over that time period. Dr. Eric Eager, who's no longer with PFF, who's now over at Sumer Sports, came from Climb in the Pocket, which was the predecessor to Vikings First and Skol. He's the one that helped develop the algorithms to do a lot of that. And there's a lot of explaining to do. And then there's Matthew Collar, who's a beat writer for Minnesota. He has a Substack, Purple Insiders. He wrote a book, how PFF became successful, how it was started, how it was founded. But the fact that some fans are like, you can't use math. That's wrong in football. Well, no, it's not. If it gives you an edge, you go with it. And I suspect that your GM, June, was intentional, looking at numbers of like Penei Sewell and saying, this is the guy I want. And holy shit. Oh, he's a left tackle. No, we're going to move him to right. He's a left tackle. No, we're going to move him to right. Hey, guess what? He's all pro and one of the top 3 in the league at that position.
He said, you wanted us to get a quarterback. We got Penei Sewell.
Yep.
He said that, Foster. You got to see it.
It was a cool press conference. But that's what's happening over on our side. And it's all the internal stuff, and that's what we have. I'm sure it's the same on Bears Twitter and Lions Twitter. And Packers Twitter is probably a little different. That's probably an orgy of some sort, fawning over cheese. But there's but that's what's going on. We do not have any quote direction other than knowing that both Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah and Kevin O'Connell were watching all the quarterbacks at the Senior Bowl, and they will be at all the quarterbacks pro days. So quarterbacks obviously going to be high on our list. Other than that, we don't know. It's bound to happen. Justin Jefferson spoke today on Radio Row in an interview, and they asked him about his contract, and he said, I don't know. It'll happen. I'm sure the Vikings will take care of me, and it'll happen when it happens. And I'm sure they will too. They had all but had it signed prior to the beginning of the last season. There was just one little bit. I'm sure that's going to be solved early this year, and we're going to hear at some point in time, Justin Jefferson signs to the largest non-quarterback contract in the history of the NFL. As he should, and Vikings fans will rejoice. But there'll be a segment of Vikings fans that call them idiots. So it is what it is. I mean, heck, who was it? Cowherd had the Vikings trading JJ plus 2 first to move into whatever position the Patriots are at right now in the draft. No. It's like, no, that's not happening.
No. Hey, what's the news coming out of the Bear Claw camp there?
We've got plenty of news. Whether or not it's news as it relates to what we're going to do in 2024, it's been kind of quiet, which is a good thing. No news is good news, because if you remember last year, February 1st, Ryan Poles, he made it known to the league that the number 1 pick was for sale. He has not done that yet. So that's a good thing. Every day we keep our cards close to the chest.
Sweat it a little bit.
We grow the asking price for whichever direction you want to go to. We have 2 quarterbacks for sale. Well, we have 1 quarterback for sale. We have 2 of them you can make your offer on. So the longer he waits, the better that offer gets, and the more information he can put together into making the most astute decision possible. And so we can finally get the Bears, get this ship turned around and start being a respectable franchise again. Other than that, the only news we've got going on is there's some rumors. One of the most connected guys in Chicago media, he's saying he's hearing that the best return man in NFL history, he's going into the Hall. That is Devin Hester from University of Miami. I've got a little mixed feelings on that one. But other than that, the only other news coming out of Chicago as it relates to the Bears is they may be sticking with Soldier Field, and they're not going to use that. Go ahead with their plans of building a new facility outside of the city in far north suburb of Arlington Heights. So stay tuned to that. They may be building a mixed use facility and share it with the White Sox. That I don't like because the White Sox are cursed. You don't do that. You
Well,
can't
that
have two cursed teams
explains
in one building.
that explains Roger Goodell's comment today that if the Chicago Bears build a dome stadium, they'll get a Super Bowl.
Well, it's twofold, Dave. The Bears have the smallest capacity stadium in the league. You can't even get a Super Bowl at Soldier Field. You got 60,000 capacity at Soldier Field, right? Soldier Field. I mean, the Super Bowl is largely a corporate event. You're going to have at least 35, 40,000 people there that are just, buddies of the NFL. That's not enough people to like I said, you got that much just for the buddies of the NFL. Then you got to have their fan tickets. Then where are you going to put the Swifties? There's not enough room. So they definitely got to do something with that as far as from a capacity standpoint. Now, if they put a dome in the South Loop of Chicago, it's gonna be an eyesore. But hey, if you can get the Super Bowl in Chicago, I'm not gonna stand in the way.
Well, we had it at US Bank, and I think we upped our seating capacity to about 75, if I remember correctly. We normally run just under 70, but and we did it. Everybody loved it, except for Minnesota Vikings fans. Except for it was cold, and they complained how cold it was. Yeah, because that was the year we lost the NFC Championship, and we had the chance to play Super Bowl in our own house. And,
that would have been crazy.
Yeah, it would have been awesome, but it failed to happen. We had the Eagles win instead.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if you remember the great Dodge commercials.
No, I
that
don't.
time, the Dodge truck, and they show Vikings growing, and then at the last minute turning around because the Eagles beat them. It was funny. But no, that's the news I saw today, Pay, was that Roger Goodell is pushing for a new dome stadium so you guys can have a Super Bowl.
It's interesting that he went ahead and said that because he's everything that's been talked about as far as further down the line. He's been pushing it off as like, not during my commissionership. He's been very careful with his words. It's interesting to me that he's went ahead and just stamped that as like, oh yeah, they do that, which obviously wouldn't be no time soon. And I think his contract is up in 27 or 28. So yeah, it lets you know exactly where they are with this as far as on a league stand.
Okay. Before we wrap this up, I'm going to go around the room here, and I want you to be as specific as possible, right? I want you to tell us what is one move that you like to see your team make this offseason as far as, and be very specific. I don't want this to sound redundant. And I'll go first to show you exactly what I'm talking about. So I want the Lions this offseason, starting with free agency, to get one of the top 2 free agents as far as rated talent, one of the top 2 corners that's available for free agency. Now, I've been looking at a couple of them. I don't know how they're rated, but I think Jalen Johnson is up there, and L'Jarius Sneed. Those 2, I would love to see the Lions acquire one of those 2 corners in free agency, and in the draft, address whatever other need you think that's because at that point, my biggest concern is corner. And if you can address, I don't see them addressing both needs in free agency. I see one or the other. Just because I just don't see it happen. We don't do that. We don't address a bunch of needs at once. But that's what I like to see the Lions do. Dave, anything, like, be as specific as possible as far as who the position, whatever you got to say about this.
Quarterback of the future. The Vikings need to strike now, this year, and grab themselves a quarterback of the future. If they fall in love with one of the top three, they need to make it happen via trade to move up into position to grab one of those. If they're cool with one of the bottom three of the top six, be it J.J. Daniels or Michael Penix, they need to pull that trigger. After selecting defense first, we need defense. We need pass rush. Our defensive interior absolutely stunk when it came to pass rush. We were the worst in the league when it came to that category. But the most important thing in this offseason is quarterback of the future.
Hey.
I'm gonna keep it a buck with you, man. I want one of them edges. I want one of them edges. I know we were talking about PFF grades, and I'm hoping you guys teams are at least got the platinum subscription when they go and get their grades from PFF. At least got that the premium stuff. But I want one of them edges. I want Jacksonville. Get them up. You had him long enough. I want Josh Allen. Brian Burns, I'll settle for him. They're about the same age. Brian, I think Josh Allen, that's a little bit more of a game breaker, a little bit more of a difference maker. That's who I want. We need game breakers on that side of the ball. I know, and this is going back to PFL, I think the best defensive lineman available is Chris Jones. He'll be 30 by the time this next season starts. I don't think that's where the Bears are at. The Bears are not in a win now mode. They don't need no 30-year-olds. And June, if you want Jalen Johnson, come get. I mean, you can have him. You know, we got corners. I mean, we can replace him. You know, Jalen Johnson's a great player. You know, very good player.
Like Jalen Johnson.
Yeah, he's a good guy, man. But you know what? We got cash to spend, and we got players to cut. If we're gonna make some splashes, we're gonna have to spend that bag. And Jalen might be on the outside looking in.
Okay, well, you can cut one of the corners and send them this way. Foster.
I was just gonna say, Pay, that we will allow you to get a Burns or a Allen if you will relinquish the rights to Jalen Johnson. Now, L'Jarius Sneed was the name that came to mind, just because I figured, maybe they'll try to retain Johnson, but number one definitely being him. I bring him on, just down 4 hours east on 94. Just slide over. We'll make it right for you. But yeah, corner is the one. We'll figure out the edge position. I'll take a lesser level guy on the edge to clear our corner situation. So
okay. Well, that about wraps it up for this week, gentlemen. I had another fun week, and we'll be back next week. If you have anything you want to say before we get out of here, you can take the time to do so, Foster. I know you got to get out of here.
Yeah.
So I'll catch up with you at 7.
Yes, sir.
And Dave, tell any closing remarks.
Hey, I just wanted to promote tonight at 6:00 Central, The Real Forno. We're going to be discussing how mock drafts help the Vikings develop strategy to hit free agency. And we're going to be a player in free agency. We don't have all the money in the world, but we've got a little bit, unlike the Green Bay Packers. But the Detroit Lions and especially Chicago are a lot more set to play in free agency than we are. But these tools used now as a fan help you learn, the draft class, and where, if there's something not there in the draft class, you can always get in free agency and you go there and look, and then that ratchets up and you can promote that amongst your friends. But that's tonight. The Real Forno Show on Vikings First and Skol, our YouTube page. Easy to find. Come join us. We're growing like crazy, and we love this time of year.
Pay.
Over at DBC, the Bear Claw Pod, we're breaking down all the do's the Bears should do, and all the don'ts that they probably will do. We've got our series of Justin versus Caleb. We've just put out our part 2 of that series earlier this week. So go ahead, check that out. We invited on a voice from the Steel Curtain Network who is very pro Justin, tells us that Caleb is a bust. Check it out, see why. I really think it's because he wants us to trade him, Justin, but not going to happen. You can get all the great content from anywhere you get your podcast. That's Apple, Google, Spotify, so on and so forth. We're also available on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook. Check us out.
All right. And you can catch Bleachers as Speakers on Motor City Metrics on the YouTube. You can also subscribe to the new Bleachers to Speakers channel on YouTube as well. That's a new channel we just started. We just eclipsed 100 subscribers last week. We're trying to get more. So if you're listening and if you're paying attention, please subscribe to that channel. There'll be more good stuff uploaded to that, and you can catch us on all podcast streaming platforms, Bleachers and Speakers, FFSN, and in Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, and I'm hearing Google Podcasts is coming to an end. So, but there's still others out there. Pay, I think you said a long time ago, how depends on how long they'll be around, and you were pretty spot on about that prediction. They're about out of here. But other than that, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate y'all. I had fun once again this week. And next week we'll talk about the actual Super Bowl. That should be a good game.
As always, Skull Vikings.
Bear down.